Well, hello guys. Daniel Santos. Very happy to be here on this Instagram live. We are about to start with my colleague, my friend Manuel, and Manuel is a dear friend and a colleague from our New Field program, the program that we did together almost 2 years ago. How are
How,
you, my friend?
Hi, Daniel. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's great to have you here. Let me
Thank
put
you.
my ear plugs here so I can listen you better. And I see some friends who are joining us already. It's a pleasure. So remind me, Manuel, you are in Nicaragua now?
Yeah, that's right. I'm in Nicaragua. And before starting, thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation. Can you hear me well?
Yes, yes, very
Okay,
well
good.
now, and appreciate. I was just about to start telling the guys here how we met, right? I was telling that we met each other in this amazing process journey with the New Field Network, doing our coaching work, and you are a citizen of the world, right? So maybe we start a little bit. You can tell us, a little bit about your journey and how we came to meet each other. So how about we start there?
All right, sounds good. Well, about more or less 10 years ago, I got my first test or taste, rather, of coaching or working with others in a different level. But I thought, this is what I want to do, right? So ever since then, I'm thinking about different ways to actually do that for a living, as they say. And a couple years later, the option of coaching came along, but I think it was that I never had the confidence, like, who am I to coach others, right? So late 2017, a friend of mine asked me to coach three of his executives. And I told him, I was honest, and I told him, look, I'm not a coach, I'm not certified. I would love to. It's something that's been in my mind recently. And he told me, look, even if you've realized it or not, you've been coaching me. So I want you to come to my office tomorrow and I'm going to introduce three of my executives. The next day in his office, there was five people in his office and and we dove in. And I really enjoyed the experience. I got positive feedback from him and his team, and that's what helped me make the decision and pull the trigger and invest in New Field Network, where I met you.
Yes, exactly. And I remember you spoke with me about, I think when we met, you were living in the US, right? I think you
Hmm.
mentioned to me that you lived in Europe before, or was that Europe or Singapore?
Well, I lived in Taiwan for three
Taiwan.
years, from 2011 to 2014. Yeah,
And then in the US, and now back to Nicaragua. So it's here, guys, you have a citizen of the world, right?
that's what I
And
say. Yeah, basically. And it's funny you mentioned Europe because right before moving to Denver, I spent a month on a mountain in Northwest Europe as a volunteer in summer camp called Arte de Amarte. And that's Spanish for the art of self love or the art of loving yourself. And I went there because the person that conducts these summer camps, that has been conducting them for 12, 13 years, Jose Maria Garzon, I met him late the year before, around 2017. Everything started to come together. I knew at the beginning of 2018, I knew it's going to be a before and an after. What
mhm.
I've learned 2 years after is that there's no really before and after, it's just one more chapter. So I love the work that he did. He went to the past, he went to the childhood. We'll get more into that about the inner child, but he's basically who I've learned this from. And because I fell in love with the work that he did and the work that I was doing with him and seeing, my results, my change, but also what was happening, the dynamic in the group that we were working with, I told him, I want to learn. I want to learn how you do what you do. And he told me, can you go to Spain for a month this summer? And I had a trip to London, so I thought, I'll put it to the test, right? The universe, whatever you want to call it. And I said, if he invites me to Spain a little bit, some days after I'm supposed to return from London, I'm there. And he told me the date, and it was like 9 days after. And immediately I said yes. And he goes, don't you want to think about it? I said no.
Wonderful. That reminds me of a story I had myself with Newfield, which
Right?
is so to explain to you guys, right? So Newfield is this program on ontological coaching. Ontology is the study of being and all of that. So it's a very different type of coaching, right? We can talk more about in the live here, but I've been avoiding to use the word coaching because it's such a detractor nowadays. Everyone is a coach, and I think the work we do is so different, right? But
Mm,
similar to me, like I plan to go to the new field, and we gotta go like 2 weeks. You need to go in Boulder, Colorado for a week. I think in our case was 1 week in September and 1 week in January, right?
correct.
And I bought the course in advance. I bought like 9 months before it started. And a few months before it started, my company, my boss said, look, there's this workshop. It's going to be in Europe and you need to go. Guess what? It was in the same week as
Mm,
the Boulder course in Colorado. And I did
I'm
exactly
thinking,
like you. I did
yeah,
exactly like you. I said, you know what? I'm going to throw this to the universe and let's see what happens. I still had a few months to think about and see. And I could eventually even talk to my boss and say, sorry, I'm not going to the workshop. But eventually, I got another job within the company, and I didn't have to go. So I could go to Colorado, and here I am. So very interesting story, right? The power of synchronicity or the power of the universe, yeah, of everything that we it's beyond the human need for control, right?
right,
Yeah.
right. Well, they talk about flow, right? So this reminds me of a mentor or a spiritual guide or a, a person that would advise me in Taiwan. He was 86 years old and he loved to ski his whole life. And amongst his wisdom was just he repeated things he had heard or learned along the way, right? We're not really inventing much these days. So he told me one of the greatest skiers in the world, they asked him, like, what's your secret? How do you do it? And he says, when most people are skiing against the mountain, I just ski with it.
Yes, yes, beautiful, beautiful. To know the flow, you gotta follow. And I'm very curious, even before I think we jump into the inner child, right? But if you can tell more to everyone here and the ones who are gonna watch us later about this thing in the mountains, right? Like you said, it's 1 month there. How was it? I mean, who was around you and what type of work you guys did?
It was amazing and incredible. Really, it was well worth it. I was with doubts, obviously, a whole month. So basically, it's a summer camp that this guy Jose Maria has been conducting for 12, 13 years, and he works with children, different ages. So I went as a coordinator, volunteering, and I learned so much from meditation to hiking, but hiking in silence with certain distance between each other so that we could actually connect with the wisdom of nature, right? The word tree hugger comes to mind. One of the hikes was actually to a more than 1,000-year-old tree, right? And we formed a circle. We sat in a circle around it, had different like a workshop, you could say. We shared. He asked questions. It was a group dynamic, and then in a moment he gave instructions, and either two or groups of three because it was a huge tree. You can imagine we would approach the tree.
1,000 years. Yeah.
More than, right, exactly. So I'm pretty sure it was three of us at the same time. We would approach it in different angles, right? And we would basically hug it or put our arms around it and put your heart and your head, whatever place you wanted, to it, and just listen or feel the message. What an organism or a living creature that's been on this earth for more than 1,000 years had to tell you. I had never hugged a tree in my life before, and I know what the concept tree hugger, how it's interpreted, everything we learned about linguistics and the way we view the world. But I said, you know what, I'm here, and I came here to learn, and I did it. That's one of the exercises or the practices that's coming to mind. Another one right now is saving the cherry tree. So along the hike trails, it was just full of weeds and nature gone wild, right? But in the middle, he had identified a cherry tree. So the exercise was, as a team, some had the scissors, others had the rake. We were going to clean the space for the cherry tree to have a clean surrounding. But then while we're all working, in silence, different things are coming to mind. And at the end, the exercise or the questions were, what does the cherry tree represent in your life? What are the weeds and the rest of the vegetation around it represent in your life? How does this work? How are you going to translate or replicate this work to your life from now on? And in my phone and in my desktop and my computer, I've developed an Excel sheet where I control, measure, some actions that I do daily to tend to my cherry tree, and that's the name of the file, cherry tree.
Cherry tree.
So things like this, just
Beautiful.
yeah, connecting with the inner child, meditation, like I said, mantras. It was very nice, very nice.
Yeah. It's beautiful because, as you were saying, right, we take care of the tree, which is outside, but at the same time, we are taking care of ourselves, right?
Right. What
And
part of you has been unattended?
uh,
What are the weeds that have grown around that part of you? How
mhm.
are you tending to them? And exactly like a garden, it looks nice, but there's maintenance, right? If you just forget about it, the weeds will just come back up right up.
Yeah. And that's so beautiful to me. And I admit, I'm a beginner, I'm a learner in the art of when to identify, hey, it's time to disconnect. I get into, especially now working from home, it's like every day working with the computer and emails and phone calls and iPhone and all those things, right? It's so difficult, so difficult. I think I've made some progress over the last years. Like I deactivated all the notifications, right? The only notification I have activated, only two, right? So of course, the notification of a phone call and the notification of a text message. But all the others I deactivated. Even
Right.
emails, I don't have email notification on my phone. I have, of course, on my computer, but not on my phone. And then the other day I took this decision, said no more. I'm done with that. I deactivated the app that triggers the counts the steps.
Oh,
So there's because I was addicted to that thing. I was addicted to, like, I counted my steps for 3 years, and I was like, oh, how many steps I'm doing this month? How many steps I'm doing this year? And it's kind of, I was feeling that I had to carry the phone with me wherever I go because of the steps. And I said, no more. I mean, and for me, the story you are telling, reconnecting with the nature, is such a beautiful way, right? To bring back the nature and forget the technology a little bit, like leave the technology. Technology is really good. It's strange for us to say that, oh, forget the technology. We are doing this thing here on the technology, but you gotta know how to use and how to say, okay, now I'm gonna be technology free, right? I don't know. Do you have any practice to that, or do you struggle with that, or how do you manage yourself, Manuel?
Well, well, I've never been a fan of notifications. I've never really allowed, because as soon as you download it, it says allow them. No, no, no Facebook. I think the first one I deleted was Facebook many years ago because I don't care every time, or I do care, but I don't want to be, I don't want my attention to be so diluted, and every time somebody likes a picture, for example. Everything happens for a reason, and what you're telling me about the steps, these days, since I've been trying to eat healthier and do more exercise, I was considering activating those things about the steps, but thank you to your share, I'm not going to do that, for
Don't
example.
do it.
No, I don't. I always have it on silent, for example. I don't let it ring, I let it vibrate. It's usually in my pocket, or I'll leave it on the table. Have you heard that the farther it is from you, the less you're aware of it? Like, let's say if it's in your pocket, it's one thing. If you put it on the table, in the table next to you, or in your car,
Yeah, I
yeah,
feel that. I
that's
feel that.
crazy. Yeah,
It's crazy. And even putting like this is one thing I've done for many, many years now, which is I always put with the screen uh pointing to the table, right? I never
right.
leave the screen pointing to me because, automatically you look at the screen. But it's
True.
great to see we have some good friends here from our new few times. There's a guy called Joe saying that you are a guapo, huh?
I
Handsome
think he was
guy.
talking about you.
Uh, or both of us.
Yeah. Right
Um,
back at you, Joe.
yeah. So, okay, inner child. Let's talk a little bit about that. I think it's such a fascinating topic. Guys, the other day I was telling you, guys, I called Manuel. It was not the other day, it was like 3 months ago. But
Yeah.
every day seems the same, right? On the quarantine. And you explained to me a little bit about the work you are doing with inner child. And I said, wow, we gotta find a space to talk about that and to share that with people. So, yeah.
So, yeah, well, great. Well, now we have the space, right? I think it all started like I said in that workshop with this group early 2018, and it was like a remember our teacher in Boulder told us we had to recover. We didn't have to, but it was suggested, that we recover the ability to marvel at the world, our ability to awe.
Hmm.
Well, either the first or the second day of this workshop, um, the director recommended a book, The Knight in the Rusted Armor. It's a fascinating book. It's like a children's story. It's a fairy tale, but it's amazing. And the armor is basically, I totally related with it because it's basically these emotional protection or this shield that we put on. I totally relate that I put on as a child to protect myself, right? To not let in certain things. But what happens when I'm not letting things in? I'm also not letting things out. So if I can't cry, I can't feel joy. But as soon as he recommended the book, another participant goes to his book bag. Mind you, yeah, there's plenty of participants. I'm going to say 16 or 17, but only 2 or 3 book bags. And he reaches in his book bag and he says, "This book?" And I go, "This can't be. This is crazy." Like, and the mind's already thinking. They got
Yeah.
together. They organized it. And he says, hold on. Before anybody thinks anything, did I give you this book?" And he goes, "No, I just picked it up. We're in a place where there's no books." It was almost like out of the city and nature. So, and then as that day progressed, the kid that gave me the book, his name is the same name as my dad. So this
Mm.
was another level of awe because here is somebody giving me what I needed in the moment. And one of my biggest resentments, or from my childhood, is that I felt I'm already beyond that, or I'm past that. I have a very lovely relationship with my father nowadays, but at that time, I felt like here is somebody with his same name giving me what I needed when I felt that I didn't get what I needed as a child. And it all starts with this concept, worldviews, like we learned in Boulder. You know, in Latin America, we're descendants, you know, from the colonization, the Catholicism, nothing against any religion, but somewhere, sometime, it got a little disvirtuated in medieval times or whatever. And you know what we learned in Boulder about sacrifice having nothing to do with suffering. And I've Googled it, and it says it's been changed over the years because it had nothing to do with this. So it all comes from this. If you know, if we're bad, then we deserve punishment, and we're not worthy, so we punish ourselves. That's how the course began. And I was very interested because of these assessments, what the distinction you and I learned in Newfield Network against what's the truth, you know, is the world the way it is, or is it the way I view it? So
The facts versus the stories, right? Yeah.
sure, the stories we tell ourselves. So here I am learning, you know, first of all, to identify the stories, you know, and a little fast forward, and I'm trying to stay on track here, but what I learned on that mountain for that month, weeks before I met you in Boulder, when I was listening to Julio say these things, and it was almost like the same thing. Talk about synchronicities that you mentioned. So for me, when those things happen, I feel, or I recognize them as something or someone telling me you're on the right track. Don't doubt, walk with confidence. Because in the mountain in Spain, I was hearing exactly the same, in different words and concept, what I learned on the mountain of Boulder with you. So we did exercises. He taught us how to actually talk to our inner child. You know, there's a belief, depending on who you're talking to, you know, the inner child doesn't have to be you. It could actually be a separate entity. There's the wounded inner child, and then there's your internal wisdom or your internal guide, for example. So some people believe that the world is actually like a movie screen, and the director is the inner child, and everything that happens is just the way the inner child communicates with us to let us know where he's stuck or where he's suffering. And when I mean stuck, I mean there's actually a little boy of a certain age reliving and stuck in a scene. So rescuing is actually, you know, connecting, centering, grounding, as we learned, right? And going to that place. It's almost like time travel. One thing I told him was like, this is like time travel. And he's like, yeah. And in a way, it almost like it shakes everything we believe, because in a way, you can change the past. Because by going to that scene as an adult, as a loving adult, you actually rescue the child, the entity that's stuck, reliving that scene. So now this child, let's say 7 years old, has a different outcome. Now he has an adult that loves him unconditionally, is there to support him, especially if he feels he didn't have that at that time. So in a way, abilities, capacities, potential that's kind of locked in that scene that I'm not taking advantage of today, it will catch up with me in time, right? It's not immediate, it's not automatic. An example could be, let's say the inner child is stuck in a school scene where other children or other classmates, you know, did something where he felt he couldn't speak up, or he should stay quiet. Well, maybe that adult is having trouble with public speaking. So by rescuing that child from that scene, with time, he will recover his abilities, his security and confidence to speak in public. Not only have I lived it and I'm reaping the benefits and I'm enjoying the benefits. I've seen it work with other people. It
Yeah.
truly is. It's amazing.
And it's amazing what you say. You know, another coincidence, right? And I guys, I promise I didn't plan for that, but take a look, time travel. So
Oh,
we can
there
talk
you
about time travel. The DeLorean's
go.
here, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and by the way, I think it's so beautiful what you're saying, right? And I felt so much on that. I mean, automatically I start thinking about who I was as a boy, and I think we did some of that in new fields to go
mm,
back in the past and revisit some things that happened and try to make peace with that, right? As you said, really, we can go back in time or we can even go to the future. Uh, let's say we cannot change the past in terms of what happened for
right.
events, but we can bring a new meaning to those things, right? So, um, how is that working for you now, uh, as you revisit your inner child? Like, do you continue to revisit your inner
Yeah,
child frequently? Do you have like a practice around that?
yeah. It's actually it goes both ways. I visit and also I am visited. For example, and I love what you were saying before I get into that about going to the past and changing the story. It's almost like we interpret it in a different way, right? And yes, in Newfield and my coach, and I know coaching is present focused and future focused. We don't really go to the past that much, but with assessments, it's very powerful if you're able to pinpoint when you acquired that assessment or when you learned that worldview. It's almost like automatic, unconsciously. You don't even have to go through a process. In a way, you say, "Oh, I learned that one day. I started using it. I could unlearn it, let go, and learn a different way that helps me. That's serving me more, right?" So, what do I mean by it goes both ways? Nowadays, when I get upset, every time I get upset, I ask, "What's going on?" Right? This external situation or this person, what buttons did they trigger? What internal triggers of mine are being activated? Another way of saying this is, what's my inner child telling me with this uncomfort, anger, sadness, for example? So in a way, I see these external situations or these people that used to be guilty or the responsible ones, I see them as messengers. So what I do now is I say thank you. I don't say it out loud because in that time I'm mad or angry. Internally, I say thank you to the messenger, and that allows me to concentrate and actually pinpoint the message. And the message is what in my past, in my being, in my worldview, my assessments, my emotions is being triggered. Because if it's being triggered, it means it's still alive, it's unresolved, it's pending, whatever you want to call it. So that gives me the opportunity to actually to pinpoint, the most recent, not the most recent, the the least recent memory of feeling that feeling. And let's say I'll go 16 years ago, or and then after a while I'll remember, oh, 19 years ago. So and that's the way, because what I was saying about some people believe that the world is actually like a movie screen that the inner child is actually projecting to give you messages. That's the only way that the inner child can communicate with us. You can't just tell me, hey, remember that scene? Hey, man, help me out. No, it's like it creates these things. That's why we constantly hear about, if you stumble on a roadblock, or you have, the question is, why does this keep happening to me? Right? Why do I keep finding myself in these similar situations? Why? Because there's something pending unresolved that needs to be taken care of.
Taking
So
care
every
of.
time that happens, yes, I revisit the inner child, like you were asking.
Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, and by the way, guys, I see we have some people here joining us. So I see Marta, Cowboy, I see Joe, and some other folks. So please, if you guys have comments or questions, feel free right here, and we're gonna reserve some time to answer your questions or share what you are writing here. Um, I remember, I want to share some things from my end as well. Like, and I think we can make this session very open. And guys, if you want to share what's your inner child telling you, feel free. So when I moved to the US, right? I moved to the US 4 years ago from Brazil, and I struggled a lot in the first year. First year was really difficult to me to adapt to the culture and adapt to not only the culture but adapt to the weather, right? We came in September, and then like November was already extremely cold and all of that. So oh my God. And at the beginning I didn't understand, but I start to remember a lot about my memories from when I was a child or even a teenager, like 12, 13 years old. And I had such a great time, because we used to go to the countryside every weekend, a town close to São Paulo. We used to live in São Paulo, so we drove like an hour, and we go there. We had a house in the countryside, and we spent like the whole weekend playing soccer mostly, but playing and biking and with friends and all of that. And here I am, right? Like 3 years ago, I was 36, 37 years old, an adult. I have a daughter. I'm a dad. I have a wife. I have a career. Ta-da-da, ta-da-da. I have all those responsibilities of an adult. And then I'm struggling with living here in the beginning. I was kind of unhappy, but I was in that space where I didn't know what's going on. I was just trying to, okay, we will overcome this, we will overcome this, we'll get better, we'll get better. And having those memories. So I was dreaming about this situation when I was 12, 13 years old. I was thinking about my friends at that time. Sometimes I was working during the day and those memories came to me. And I didn't understand. I said, wow, why those memories are coming, right? I think a few years, like a year later, a year, 2 years later, when I started a new field, I started to understand. I say, look, this guy, this teenager, this child is telling me, hey, it's time to have fun again, right? It's
Yeah,
time to reconnect with fun. I mean, you
love
had a
it.
lot of fun when you were playing soccer, when you were with your friends. So, hey, um, how about you have some fun now, right? So it took a while to understand the message, but then I got the message, and then I said, okay, let's go for it. So I started playing tennis. I bought a bike here. I started biking, and yeah, I start to try to revisit that side. So yeah, has that ever happened with you? What was your inner child telling you?
You know, recently this year, earlier this year, before going to Taiwan, I left in 2011. I used to have a lot of bonsais. I really got into gardening because of my trees. And when I came back in 2014, I never picked it up again. Even though it was something pending in the back of my mind, that I should or I would want to, but I never did. So earlier this year, a friend of mine is telling me about his farm and all these vegetables, and I start thinking, I should garden in my backyard. I'm spending a lot of time at home, but I know myself. If you're familiar with the Enneagram, I'm a number 7, which is an enthusiast. Everything sounds like a good idea, and I open a lot of doors. I don't really follow through all the time, right? A lot of abandoned projects. So I thought gardening is probably something that I will abandon. And in a corner of our yard, there used to be a slab of cement, a rectangular piece of cement that the previous owner, I think, had an electric plant on it, a generator, an electric generator. So I thought, if I demolish that with my own hands and tools, that'll be my commitment. That'll be my buy-in, and I'll be committed and I won't let the garden die. So I started with a hoe, right? And after half an hour of just whacking at it, I did nothing to the cement. But my hands hurt and I couldn't even hold a fork, right? But not only am I an enthusiast, I can also be stubborn. So I called a friend that rents out heavy machinery and he loaned me a jackhammer. It took me a week of working on that thing, at least an hour a day, sometimes 2 hours a day, just to get to half of the cement. Where there was a well elaborated, vertical and horizontal rebar, just thick bars of I don't know, iron or steel. I'm not sure what type of metal it was. But this whole week, there's a lot of, it's a somatic practice, it's an emotional practice. I'm there, hammering away with heavy machinery. And I'm not sure if it was the second or the third day, but that cement slab like gained another level of meaning. And that was actually that shield or that armor that I talked to you about, that 2 years ago I learned that I used or I put on as a child to protect myself emotionally. So here I was, the adult, rescuing the inner child or my heart or my ability to love and be loved, and getting rid of this shield, of this armor. I didn't plan it. It just came out that way. And the rebar, if I wasn't seeing that, if I wasn't open to this, I would have seen the rebar like, oh my God, this is just getting harder and harder. I probably would have quit, or I probably would have hired somebody to do it for me. But the rebar, what it told me is, wow, you really put effort into the shield. And and it's like we learned in Colorado, it's not good or bad. It's did it serve you? And sometimes that question, does it serve you, sounds sarcastic, but it's not. Because if I used it, and if it's a recurring habit, no matter how destructive it is, if it's recurring, if you're going back to it over and over, if it's not serving you now, it did at some point. So yes, there was protection. It helped me at the moment, but it was time to say goodbye, just like the song says. And something else came to mind, and it was that it's not like the dirt was actually holding the cement slab. It was one there. It was a symbiotic relationship. There wasn't it wasn't something foreign. It wasn't doing damage. It was actually there for a reason. But now it was time to let something else surface, which was the dirt underneath, where I was going to plant seeds with my two boys, my 2 and my 3-year-old, where we were going to learn together how to nurture, how to grow, how to take care of plants, and actually see things flourish, and flowers. So that's one of the most recent um, relationships or exercises or practices that I've had in this realm.
Wow, such a powerful story, and beautiful. As you realized that you were like breaking the cement is breaking your own armor, right? And there's an old movie, uh, very old, I would say. Well, not so old. It's actually a new movie because this movie was done in the year I was born, so 1980. So it's
That's
not
not
that
old at
old.
all.
1980. So it's called Excalibur, right? It's about the swords of the King Arthur. Have you seen that movie? No.
No, I haven't
Yeah,
seen it.
it's a British movie, so it's a beautiful movie, and it has this scene where one of the knights of the round table goes after the Grail, right? So, and he wants to get the Grail to bring back to King Arthur because King Arthur is dying,
Mm.
and so he's in the middle of something, a battle or something, and then he enters into this castle, and the growl, the callus from where Jesus drank in the Last Supper, shows up to him, and he's about to take it, but and he's with the armor. You know, he's dirty and he has the armor, and the armor is very heavy and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But the growl kind of stands back and says, "No, you're not ready. You're not ready." So he misses the opportunity,
Right.
and something else happens, and a day later or something, he's back in the castle, but he is no longer wearing the armor. He's free, you know, it's just his body,
Right.
and he does not have that weight to carry with him and that dirt to carry with him. And now the girl says, "Okay, now you are ready." So he takes the callus and brings back to the king, and the king drinks in the callus, and the king is reborn. You know, it's such a beautiful, beautiful scene. And again, coming back to the child story, right? It's funny. I mean, it's funny at the same time. It's so transcendent, right? How we know those things. I remember I watched that movie first time. I was probably 7 years old,
Right.
7, 8 years old, and I remember that scene from that age. You know, that was such a scene to me, such a thing that was wow. Um, yeah, I don't know how to explain, but it had that power in me, right? So beautiful. The armor, getting rid of the armor to reborn, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Let free. I like that word you use. Use free.
Yeah. We have some comments here. Let's see. We have a cowboy uh, sent a comment saying, "Look, the world would be definitely a better place if we could look and face the world with the eyes of a kid, of a child." Right? Beautiful. I agree that, and that's by the way something I've seen a lot, which is I want to get your perspective as well. But as we get adults, we become adults, and like executives or whoever work we do, right? Everything becomes so serious, everything becomes so heavy. It's so much like responsibilities and pay the bills and create your business plans and have all the answers, right? You need to have the answers. I mean, if you say to your boss, you know, "I don't know," oh my God, you're going to be fired. What's going to happen, right?
Right.
And that's so different from being a child, being free,
Yeah.
right? Is that what you see? Like, what do you see the most as struggles when people come to you?
Well, talking about being free and being stuck, it's almost like the way we see the world. You know, what we learned, or it's a concept that many people talk about it in different terminologies, but it's basically like as humans, we're always making up stories to explain things we don't understand or to explain things that happen, right? So we're filled with these stories that we use to make peace with reality. The thing is, there comes a point sometimes that we forget we're telling ourselves a story, right? So when we forget that this is just a story that we're using to explain, either we inherited, whether we realize it or not, we made it up, someone else did, it's cultural, social, generational. When we don't see the story anymore, when we forget we have the story, then we don't have a story, the story has us. And it's not this is the way I see the world anymore. It becomes this is the way things are, right? So being trapped, we're trapped by our stories without even knowing that we are trapped in a story. So by bringing awareness, creating awareness to these stories, what you and I call breaks and transparencies, then we're able to decide: is this serving me? Is it still serving me? When will it still serve me, and when will it not? And what story do I want to tell myself now? So it's almost making conscious and intentional what we as humans do whether we realize it or not. Um, and when you were reading the comment, Cowboy's comment, I remembered something I saw and I saved it. That's why it looks like I was on my phone. I was guilty, but just to find this meme, and it's two people sitting at a table. You know, they're kind of like at a first date, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's in Spanish, but I'll translate it, and it says something to ask on a date. You know, and I think it would be better to say on a first date. How aware, how conscious are you of your traumas and your repressed emotions? And tell me how you're actively working on them to heal them before you project them on me.
Oh my God. That's a key test, huh? If the other person continues with you after you ask that question, you need to marry that person because it's you guys were born to remain together, right?
Yeah, well,
That I
basically,
loved. I loved. Before you
and
project, right? Because we project all the time.
right, and that's what I meant by external situations or other people. When I get upset at them, nowadays I try to remember to say thank you in my mind, not out loud, and look at why it is that I'm getting upset in here. And I love what you said about not being able to tell your boss I don't know. And earlier today, you also said I'm a beginner, right? This frees us as well because you said trapped or being free to not only enjoy life but also live life without the story, genuinely. It also reminds me what we learned about our as a human race, our addiction to answers. You know, it allows us to ask questions and it allows us to navigate or be comfortable in the I don't know, which is the only place where we can come to new knows, you know, broader scope of knowledge or wisdom, rather. So,
Yeah. And the kids are such teachers to us, right? I mean, you have two boys, right? 2 and 3, you were saying.
yeah, you know the saying when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Hmm.
Well, I've changed it into when the student is ready, he becomes a father. Because those two are my professors, and it's such a beautiful. It's not even two ways anymore. There's so many ways, because what I've learned, how I've grown from my inner child work, you know, it allows me to be a better parent to them, and I'm sure of it. I can see it. I recognize it, and I still can't cry. I haven't cried in years, right? But my eyes do get a little bit teared up sometimes. And when I realize those moments where I feel and I recognize that I'm being a good father to them, thanks to the work that I've done, that really makes me emotional. And at the same time, what I'm learning from being a father to them, I also apply to the way I'm parenting my inner child. So it's just wonderful in so many
Beautiful,
levels. Blessing.
beautiful, beautiful. I want to say hello also to we've seen André is here, Clara, Francisco. Francisco sending a message to us as well. Great friend from our new field program. Marta, I think, was here as well. So it's beautiful to see all of you guys. Um, yeah, what amazed me in the kids, right? I mean, I have one. She's 6 years old now. Elena is the wonder. Is the wonder. As you just said, look, it's which is something at least in people I work with, adults mostly, and regardless if they are American, Brazilians, Europeans, different ages, men and women, right? I see this difficulty to be amazed by something, right? It's so difficult. Everything for adults became this, like, okay, yeah, yeah, I've seen that, or okay, that's right, or I believe, or I don't believe, this is true, or this is wrong. It's always like, and the kids know, right? The kids are, it's always, ooh, wow, it's true. Yeah, can happen that. I mean, everything is a possibility, right? I mean, They might not even agree, but everything becomes a possibility. And that's why I've seen in my case, and that's something I promote in my second job, right? I have those two jobs, those two careers in my company is let's discuss possibilities. Let's have a meeting to discuss possibilities.
Right.
Let's not have a meeting to discuss an action plan, right? Oh, here's what we need to do by the next month to deliver. Da, da, da. No, let's discuss possibilities. Let's. It's so difficult. I mean, we are addicted to action and addicted to things are the way they have always been, right?
Yeah. Do you remember our professor asking us, what was your childhood dream? And he said, allow yourself to dream right now before you learn to limit yourself and your dreams. You remember that? That was
Mm-hmm.
incredible.
Yeah.
And and it's a question that I try to bring, to my conversations, to the sessions with my clients. And to tie it in with what we've been talking right now, when you rescue that scene, or this is this is a bit this is a realm that some with most clients I don't get into, right? But even if we're not talking about that, for example, once there's awareness of an assessment that isn't serving me for a specific situation, even before the creation of a new awareness, just realizing, just bringing awareness to this assessment, to this way you see the world, and being open, even if it's only a kink in the wall, being open to seeing the world in a different way. There's that question, what new possibilities would open up to you or would come from this step, and that's when you see, the body shift and the eyes go up and the jaw drop a little, and that's where you see, the mind just talking, even though it's with oneself, about those possibilities. It's like we recover the ability, like you were saying, to marvel, to awe, and to dream.
Yeah. And that's a topic so fascinating. I wish we had another hour to discuss that because possibilities, right? I mean, I get so many people sometimes they ask me, "Hey, Daniel, I wanna live in the United States. It's so great." And you've lived here, so you know the good, the bad, and the ugly. Oh, because when I live in the United States, it's gonna be the new life. Everything, all my problems will be solved and everything. And I
Right.
said, look, if there's one thing, I mean, so many things we learn in our journey, right? One thing that I stays with me every single day is what matters the most is the observer we are, right? The possibilities we are able to see. You might be living in the best place ever. You might have billions of dollars in your bank account, but if you are not seeing the possibilities, your life is going to be miserable, right? So, um, yeah, I think that's it. It comes back to the discussion about the kids and how much we lost our connection with the inner child, right? As adults, I've seen so many people come in and say, "Oh no, no, I don't have any possibilities. That's what I gotta do. I gotta continue to do this because I need to pay my bills and
Yeah,
there's nothing else I can do." I mean, it's so much the resignation, right?
exactly.
And, hey, there's millions of possibilities out there, right? So,
Right.
Manuel, I want to respect our time here, and for those who are joining us now, I mean, this is going to be recorded. It's going to be here on Instagram. It's going to be on the YouTube channel as well. So subscribe to the channel. It's youtube.com/Daniel D. Santos, my name. But also, Manuel, I wanna open for you where people can find you. If you want to share your contact details, I think it's been amazing.
Sure. So we recently launched a website. I'm really proud of it. Talking about child, it's my most newborn child. It's my name, my last name, Manuel Tefel, TEFEL.com. You want to go check it out? Give me suggestions. Do you like it? What would you do? because I'm new to that the website scene, so I'm really proud of it. Human Wellness. It's a little play on the words. Human Wellness with Manuel in the middle. Here on Instagram and on LinkedIn. Everything with my name. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Thank you for that. But
Beautiful.
just trying to be there. Be present in case I can help. The way I see it is we all struggle and we've all lived obstacles. I like what you said about bringing meaning to that. You know, without using the word suffering, just anything, obstacles or stuck, or maybe you think you can live better. But what I'm trying to say is, from the experience that I've lived, I just want to be present and there to share my experience in case somebody feels that it could help them. You know, we don't have to trip on the same stones.
Exactly. And how much we can learn also from the others, right? And
Oh,
how
totally.
much you learn from the work others do when they connect with their inner child.
There's a saying that came to mind. I'm not gonna say it perfectly, but basically it's, you know, stupid people don't learn from their own lessons. Intelligent people learn from their own experiences, and wise people learn from other people's experiences. Yeah.
It's beautiful, Manuel. Hey, thank you so much, my friend. I know it took a while for us to come here. We've been talking, guys, for like 6 months, planning for this live meeting,
Right.
but it happened. I think it was beautiful. I thought a lot today about my inner child. I think for sure he's here. Little Danny is here, and
Hmm.
yeah. So thanks for allowing this space, for bringing this energy to the discussion here.
You are very welcome, and at the same time, thank you for the opportunity and inviting me to your show.
Well, thank you,
It's been a
guys.
pleasure.
So keep in touch. Stay in peace, everyone, and remember to say hello and to connect with your inner child. Take care, guys. Bye, Manuel. Ciao.
Hi, Daniel. Thank you.